we're back. And
Woo!
when I say we're back, in your case, like you're back. And we have so much volleyball to talk about. But wait till you hear where my pal has been since the end of last volleyball season. And I say at the end of last season being the end of the pro season when you finished calling games
Yeah.
in Indianapolis for Major League Volleyball. And I'll just,
Then,
just throw a few out there. Come on.
yeah, so did VNL this year again. I was in Bangkok, Thailand. I was in Gliwice, Poland, and then I actually got a week in Chicago, which is where I live, which was really nice. But no, it was a super fun summer. I normally do a little bit more VNL, but they had some like shifting around with the schedule, and I honestly like kind of wanted to do a little less this year so I could actually enjoy Chicago. And enjoy my actual personal life. So that was really exciting. But going to Bangkok was so fun. We went around all the night markets and clothing markets, food markets. Like, imagine the biggest warehouse you can think of and just like snaking around little, st like stalls. And you could be in there for like 10 days and still never see everything. It was awesome. Like, just giant vats of curry everywhere. I think being American, they like wanted us to try stuff too. So we kept getting samples. It was so much fun. Poland was also fun. I would say the volleyball aspect was better than like getting to explore because that's when the heat wave was coming through, but the Polish fans are insane. And this was men's volleyball on that week, which is a really big deal in Poland. And I got to see some of the best players in the world, some of them like legends of the game, which was awesome. So yeah, really fun summer. And yeah, we're kind of like now starting to shift our mindset to the NCAA season and
Wait,
just
but
got done with media days and all.
yeah, but you left out a big vacation in Portugal.
I went to Portugal. That was all for fun. Yeah, I went for 2 weeks in May with my boyfriend, and we had the greatest time. It was so much fun. So yeah, I went to the Bahamas too to do a little promotion for the Paradise Invitational. So we went to a lot of different countries this summer.
The Paradise Invitational. I mean, we're jumping ahead, but the preseason schedule, the pre-conference schedule for NCAA Division One this year is like nothing we've ever seen in any sport. I don't
Yeah,
think in college ever.
it's awesome.
And that tell people about what you guys did just on that, couple of days junket because the coaches are there. Michaela went with you, I believe.
Yeah, Michaela was there, and then Alexa Hendricks. She used to play at Louisville, and she's an influencer, so they wanted a group of us to go and just literally show people like how cool this resort is. So we stayed at the Baha Mar. It was awesome. And Michaela and I are like really close. I mean, we're literally texting right now. She's one of my close friends, and we went with all the coaches of the teams that are playing. So Purdue, Houston, Kentucky, and SMU, and we just like did content with them that was fun. And I think my favorite thing to come out of it was Dave Shondell and Craig Skinner, who are both best friends from growing up, like basically grew up like brothers. Them in the wave pool with their life jackets on was like the funniest piece of content I've ever seen. So yeah, we literally just had fun with all the coaches, did some good content with them, and kind of just showed off this awesome resort that these four teams are playing at in September. And I'm so excited to go back down in a month or so and get to call these games.
As someone who lived in Louisiana for a very long time, I would not go to that area during hurricane season, but I will
We'll
let
see.
that's just me, but whatever. Um, I traveled, but not nearly as exotic or as much as you. But one of the greatest trips we had turned out to be a relative getting married on the Maryland Eastern Shore, going down a
Oh,
day early, staying in Annapolis.
nice.
Navy coach Paco Labrador picked us up and gave us the most incredible tour of the U.S. Naval Academy. Hence,
Fun.
hence the shirt, which if you ever have a chance to see any of the service academies, I've been to, actually had not been to Navy since I swam there as a freshman, which was a really, really long time ago in college. And, I've been to the Air Force Academy and then have been to Army a few times. West Point is the most amazing place in the fall.
Yeah.
And I actually played water polo there in college, believe it or
Yeah.
not. But
Okay.
what's interesting about the facilities are unparalleled. Everything there
Mhm.
is just amazing. If you ever have the opportunity to go to any one of the service academies, do it. Take the tour, get it, soak it in as much as you can. The service academies and the Ivy League have one thing in common in this brave new volleyball world: 4 years. That's it. There's no 5 for 5. There's no NIL. Well, there might be NIL in the Ivy League, but there
Yeah.
certainly is not in the service academies. And those are the happiest coaches in America right now, I think.
I mean, you got to think so. I think people that want to play for those schools are looking for something obviously other than just volleyball, and they're certainly getting that. But yeah, it's crazy. And talking to a lot of coaches at Big Ten Media Days, just, casually between sessions, like that was a big conversation for them of like navigating this crazy world that we live in now with 5 for 5, with NIL, with rev share, all these things. And most of these coaches now becoming like general managers. And a lot of them we're seeing put people on their staff who are taking that position. But all of these coaches have now had to really turn their mind into the business side of things. Otherwise, they're going to fall behind.
Yeah. Well, just as an aside, one of the setters for Navy is going to Space Force. She's already been accepted to go to that, and her minor is in Chinese.
Oh my God.
You know, Oh my gosh, way above. I don't know what kind of student you were, but way
I
above
was-
my pay grade.
Come on.
Well, you got the degree.
I was an A student. I think I got one B throughout high school and college.
Really? I had a
Yeah,
3.2 my freshman
biology.
year at Syracuse.
No, I
One
think I
a one
graduated like a 3.85.
oh no, my 3.2 was a 1.5 the first semester plus a 1.7 the second semester, and they still let me come back. And that's a true story. Anyway, we're recording this on Monday, and you're going to see this on Tuesday, August 11th, which is a mere 10 days away from the start of the NCAA volleyball season, and it's happening in Milwaukee. Friday, August 21st, Texas A&M versus Louisville, and Wisconsin versus Kentucky, a rematch of last year's NCAA national semifinals. Good
Yep.
first day, huh?
I mean, it literally couldn't be better. I'm so excited. I mean, the AVCA First Serve has been so fun the last few seasons, and we've actually seen some of like the greatest matches come out of this event. I'm pumped that it's in Milwaukee. Everyone loves going to Milwaukee. It's an easy hour drive for me, but it's a great little city. And the fact that we get those Final Four teams is like pretty insane.
Well, not even that. You roll over the next day, Wisconsin plays Louisville, then Texas comes in and plays Arizona State, which
Yeah.
was a big surprise team last year and ought to be very, very good. The next day,
Yeah.
A&M plays SMU in a Texas rivalry that they ought to be playing during the regular season, but of course they don't know the conference splits and everything. And then Pitt comes in versus Kentucky. How amazing. And then they finish up with Pitt versus Xavier and Texas versus Marquette. Four amazing days of college volleyball to start the season.
I'm so excited. And, when you talk about all those teams, so many of those being in the top 15 in the country. And so you're getting these powerhouse matchups literally from day one of the NCAA season, which again is what makes volleyball so exciting. These coaches are willing to play these matches. They want to test their teams, but they also know when you're playing another top team, it's more likely to get on TV. That's better exposure. And then, down the line, that's better rev share, better NIL, and you're getting better recruits. So I love that these coaches are willing to maybe take a loss or two early on, one for the betterment of the sport, but also for their programs and for entertainment for us all.
I mean, this is one year where if anybody, like what Nebraska did last year to go undefeated until the last match of the season, but to go undefeated in the pre-conference and then Big Ten schedule,
Yeah.
I mean, the gauntlet for all of these teams. Now, Nebraska
Yeah.
plays a tough schedule, but not quite as tough as some of the others, but still. So let's just go to that since
Yeah.
just a little bit ago, we got the first AVCA poll, the preseason poll, and not surprised at all. Of course, Nebraska is number one, not number two, three, and four all by itself, but um, there were 62 first place votes. 63, I take it back. 57 for Nebraska, one for Texas, which is number two, four for Kentucky, which is number three, and then number eight, Texas A&M got a first place vote. I think that's a push, but whatever. Um,
Sure.
anything we looked at the poll, Nebraska, Texas, Kentucky, Pittsburgh, Stanford, Wisconsin, Louisville, A&M, Purdue, Penn State. I'm not gonna do all 25, but anything jump out at you when you saw it?
Um, Not really. I do love that they have Texas so high. I mean, so high as in I maybe would have had them at 3 or 4, but I mean they bring back such a good squad from last season and for a team that was really, really young. Of course, you have Tori Stafford at the helm. Naturally as Texas goes, there's questions of who's going to be setting, even though they do have Ella Swindle back. I think there's like 6'2" talks in there. I don't know, but you've got a great group: Ella Swindle, Tori Stafford, Ramsey Gary. You bring back Kari Spears, an absolute stud on the right side. I love what we're going to see from Texas. Similarly for Kentucky, They had a really young group last year that made it all the way to the national championship match. So I think Nebraska is going to have a much tougher test and a road than we saw last year going undefeated. Pitt being number four, I think, no surprise. I think what's fun too about Pitt is that one, they have the reigning two-time player of the year in Olivia Babcock, who is by far, in my opinion, the best player in the country. But I think we're seeing like more respect on Pitt's name to get a top five spot early on in the season. They've become a powerhouse program, and it's cool to see them get that recognition early on.
Every year, you go with Pitt and go, oh, and then wait, they're in the semifinals again. It's like, but
Yeah.
so a couple you went fast for me. Texas has an incoming 6'3" outside hitter named Henley Anderson,
Yep.
who is more than totally legit and has
Yeah.
exploded on the international scene as well. Um, you mentioned Kentucky. They've got a really big transfer who matters. And when I say big, Morgan Gagliardi is six foot
Yeah.
five coming from Indiana, and she's the real deal.
Yeah.
Um,
You still have Brooklyn DeLay on that team,
yeah,
Cassie O'Brien, who was freshman of the year last year, Lizzie Carr, Molly Tuzzo, who's probably the best libero in the country. So they bring back so many players from that national championship match team that I think they're going to be insane again.
and Wisconsin has a 6'6" incoming freshman.
Yeah.
Say her first name for me, champion
Desalise.
Elise from Puerto Rico, who again is the real deal,
Yeah.
right? I mean, Big Ten predicted to be the Big Ten freshman of the year. Uh,
Yeah. The
oh yeah, we got. Did I
also,
get did I get you good the other day? Did you laugh at all or get a harumph when I disagreed with you about your predicted position players for the Big Ten?
yeah, we talked about this last night in the podcast with Lincoln and Jeff. I know you are. I love Annie Jackson. I think she's great. She's not going to win the Big Ten Player of the Year award unless she puts up Dana Retke type numbers, which won't happen because that team is so balanced. However, I don't mind the prediction. But one more note on Champion too. I think so Wisconsin had an alumni match, I don't know, a few days ago now, and she didn't play in that. And people were like, where was she? She's still playing with the Puerto Rican national team right now. So she's literally going to come off of that and go right into the NCAA season. And I think there's a question of like how good will the connections be? I have no doubt in my mind Charlie Furbringer is one of the best setters in the country. She's a 6'6" outside. She's only 16 years old, but I promise she's going to be just fine.
I mean, and then well, the theme here is we're mentioning players who are new to these already great programs,
Yeah.
and at Nebraska, Terea Sigler's not new, but I mean, Terry Pettit, the former Nebraska coach, did a podcast with her and sent me a note and said he thinks she's going to be one of the greatest six rotation outside hitters in Nebraska history, which is pretty
Okay.
bold. But I mean,
Yeah.
these are all players that we mentioned who were new impact players on already great teams, and the
Yeah.
usual suspects are going to be the usual suspects this year.
Yeah, and going on the Nebraska note, you have Sigler, who was just going to DS. She was in a DS role last season, but was so good. And then you have, middle Manaya Beche, who would come in for like a few points in a match, and she hit like 600 or something. Like she's an absolute stud and definitely a player to watch on an already good stacked Nebraska roster full of All-Americans.
Well, I think the Italian pro Virginia Adriano had to have a tremendous adjustment year last year. I don't care how good
Yeah.
she was and how old and how experienced. She is poised, if healthy, to have a great year. And that's where one of the things that Emily and I disagreed with about was that she said that she thought Danny Busboom Kelly was her coach of the year. And I maintain that Danny's in a no-win situation. She can't be the
Yeah.
coach of the year. And the reason she can't be is because if they win, they're expected to. She has the
Yeah.
best team. She has the best second team. And, her second team would finish in the top 10. And barring something really unusual, they are far and above everybody else. And if they lose, even
Yeah.
if it's in the last match of the season, they will have underachieved. And that sounds terrible to say it that way, but it's true because they're so good and we've had such expectations of this group. And those fourth year players could come back if they wanted to.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I think when I was making this pick, I was like, there are just so many question marks in especially specifically in the Big Ten right now. Like, I think Kelly Sheffield is in a good position because I think his team has the highest ceiling of any other team in the Big Ten. When you have players like Grace Lopez, who is coming off of a blowing out her knee, she was only playing back row in the alumni match. She has the ability to be a Big Ten Player of the Year type of candidate, but like we have no idea how she's going to look. Grace Egan has been kind of in and out of being injured the last few years. She was so good last season, but obviously overshadowed by a player like Mimi Collier. And then you have, Destiny's Champion, a freshman coming in, like she could be amazing. I assume she'll be amazing, but you just never know. Going, with one of the best setters in the country in Furbringer. So like I could see Sheffield getting that Big Ten Coach of the Year award, but like I think it's dependent on who's healthy and what's happening.
Emily, a 6'6", 16-year-old
I
national
know.
player. I mean, just the whole
Stud.
concept of it. Our sport is so advanced at such a young age, and the players coming in are just so ready. There's a couple of things
Yeah.
that jumped out at me about I, the top 25 ABCA poll didn't nothing there really surprises me, but there's a
Yeah.
couple of teams that when it's all said and done, if they were at the top or very close to the top and they're not now, would not surprise me. Purdue for one, and
Yes.
Penn State for two. Um,
Yeah. Purdue
but
100%.
yeah, and Minnesota I think is highly undervalued at 14th after what they did
Yeah.
last year with McKenna Walker coming back.
Yeah, I mean, for a Minnesota team that was completely decimated last season, I mean, it felt like almost every single starter was injured throughout the year or had a season-ending injury. I totally agree. I think for Minnesota with me, like no, I wouldn't be surprised to see them, be in the top 10, but I'm also like, how are these players going to look, coming off of injury, having a year off, getting back into it. I think they'll get better as the season goes on, which is what Keegan Cook does with his team so well. But Purdue, I think, is going to be a really good team and maybe will make their first Final Four in history, which is crazy to say that they've never made a Final Four. But you bring back Taylor Anderson, Kenna Woolard, Grace Heaney, all Americans from last season. And I think you have one of the better liberos, certainly in the Big Ten, and Ryan McAleer. That team's going to be really, really good with the returners that they have.
The other one I mentioned was Penn State. Um, Penn State may be undervalued at 10. The other one, I think Louisville might be overvalued at 7.
I agree. I think when you kind of, look across the board at these teams, but I don't know. I mean, for Louisville, you've got Nilese Cabello back, Chloe Chacoin, Peyton Peterson, Blackshear, who is so good. And then they also got Brooke Bultema coming in from Kentucky. So that's a really big get in the middle for them. With Penn State, I just don't know what to think. You have Kennedy Martin, who was, top two in the country in points per set the last two seasons. You bring Alexis Stuckey in, so like they have the setting situation figured out. She's a phenomenal setter coming in from Florida. But like on the outsides, you got to pass the ball and you got to kill a ball. Last year they couldn't do it with what they had. The only addition they really added was Whitney Lonstein, from Texas, who hasn't gotten a ton of playing time over the last few seasons. Giving birth to a baby girl, being on Texas, being a backup. She looks really good in the Texas gym. I remember last year I had, I think, like a dozen Texas games and she looked awesome. But like, we'll see what happens. Is she going to play and how is she going to do? Because Penn State needs really good outsides this year. Otherwise, they're just going to be kind of hovering.
The few rotations that she got for Texas, she was very good.
So good.
Yeah, and so on a pseudo Penn State transition to back to Pittsburgh, Izzy Stark is no small ad for Pitt. I mean,
Yeah.
she set Penn State to a national championship. In essence, didn't play last year, and now is there. And we already talked about Babcock and all the rest of the players. Just quick side note: in May, I got to take a trip courtesy of Terraflex, the floor company, to France. We went to Lyon and to Lausanne, Switzerland. And it's amazing. Their product's amazing. Everything about the whole thing was amazing, and the way they treated us was amazing. But I had 3 days in Paris. I built in for myself first, and I called our friend TK, Tim Kelly, and said, give me some ideas about Paris. I hadn't been in quite a few years, and he mentioned, we talked about some hotels and some other stuff. He goes, I said, well, I get there on whatever day, and he goes, oh, well, we're leaving the next day. So we hooked up, and I thought I was just meeting him for dinner. He told me meet us by there's this plaza where you get this great view of the Eiffel Tower. It was cold and raining, and then the rain stopped at least. And he shows up, and he's there with Dan Fisher and Olivia
Oh,
Babcock and the whole Pitt team. And I said, wait. He goes, oh, you didn't realize that this was the end of the Pitt tour. Pitt had taken one of the Bring It Promotions tours,
yeah.
and they were finishing with a couple of days in Paris. So and it's funny because they looked at me like, why are you here? And I said, oh, I'm here to cover your trip, whatever, just whatever. And had a great visit with all of them, and had a great time talking to Olivia, who's just like the coolest kid.
So cool.
Yeah, and I still think she can be in the 2028 mix, but
Yeah.
that's a whole nother story for another day. I don't want to. I don't want. We already go off into too many tangents, right? But I think because of Izzy Stark, um, a first place vote for them, of which they got none, and because you have Olivia Babcock, I would have been okay with that as compared to one for A&M, and you know,
Yeah, that's fair. I think Olivia Babcock obviously completely changes that team. I look at Pitt similarly to how I look at Penn State right now. You have a new setter coming in. I'm assuming that Stark is going to be okay, play the whole season, like look good. You have an all-time talent, Olivia Babcock for Pitt, Kenny DeMartin for Penn State, but Pitt also lost so much. You lost Brooke Mosier, the setter. Stark's coming in, obviously. Emery Dupes, the libero, Riley Jones, Bree Kelly. You're replacing a lot of really big pieces. I think the middle Penn State, or sorry, Pitt was so good in the last few years with Bree Kelly, with Riley Jones in there. Now you've got like really big shoes to fill. So kind of, what do? You got to transfer from Kentucky and Jordan Daly, but what does Pitt look like through the middle? How good is their blocking? Because
well,
you
it's funny
you're
you mentioned.
decent on the pins.
Yeah, on that trip, Mayaki Helig, and I think I'm pretty close on saying her name right, from the Netherlands, who's a 6'4" freshman, met them in Paris.
Oh,
She's already committed to come, but that was the first time she met everybody, and she was there. And she's a really big middle, and they said, in that conversation, this kid's really good. Now, of course, she's
freshman
another
though, we'll see.
and a foreigner, which
Yeah.
there's always that adjustment on multi fronts. But um, anybody else we're missing who maybe we're underrating or not giving enough credit to?
I mean, SMU is going to be really good. Similar to what we've seen the last few seasons, they've just got a big turnover in roster. I'm definitely interested to see what Sam Erger does, but the team's going to like fight as hard as they can.
Sully Davis from BYU is
Yep.
Big 12 Player of the Year, so
Yep.
for one.
Huge get. So yeah, we'll see. I know Jaden Livings, I believe, is back for them. So we'll see how that plays out. Looking down the line,
Glad we'll see Arizona State early, so we'll have a good look at them that first weekend.
yeah, I think Indiana, them being at 16 after making a Sweet 16 last year, I think they could finish a lot better. I could see them, being a top 10 team early on because they bring back most of their players. They just lost two pin attackers, but they've got good people waiting in the wings. So they're going to be really good with Tedor Kuchkovic, the setter, who is phenomenal last year, freshman year. Jaden Jager coming back. I'm excited to see what they do.
Um, Miami, Florida did not make it. They were the last team out. They're one that, like last year, they'll have a different look because they'll be way more balanced. Um, Flo won't get 90% of the balls, but they're a good team. That's somebody else to look for.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't get a chance to ask you because we saw Emily and I saw each other for like 1 minute at Big Ten Media Days last week in Chicago. Um, and we couldn't get together the day before because
Yeah.
one of us had tickets to Lollapalooza, which is did you go all 4 days?
No, so I went Thursday and saw Lord, and then Friday had dinner with my mom and her husband for their anniversary, and then Saturday I had a bachelorette party. Sunday went and saw, well, no, we actually, yeah, Tate McRae, and then had a good old 12-hour workday Monday. So,
Okay.
just
And
doing it
then
all.
and then the next day did all your MAC interviews, right? The Mid American Conference.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, I had 12 interviews for the MAC, which is honestly really fun to dive into some of those teams. I mean, it's a really great conference with some really high level players. That like it's fun when you watch the MAC because you go into the week looking at the standings and you're like, oh, this makes sense. These teams are doing well. And like the next week it's completely flipped. Like the teams and the matches are so much fun. So it's fun to get to do that for a third year.
um, People have asked me over the years, would I write a volleyball book? And I quickly say no, because I've written three, and two about football and one about basketball. And writing books is really hard. And
Yeah.
unless it goes nuts, you don't make any money off it, a little bit. But a volleyball book would be hard because we're still a niche, no matter how you slice it or dice it.
Yeah.
But what I always thought would be the most fun would be to embed in the MAC for an entire season and ride the buses and get the stories because there's so many good coaches in that league.
Yeah.
There's so many players who are really good, but they might be a 6 foot outside, but they don't jump high, or they
Mhm.
might be a slightly undersized outside who does jump really high and just wasn't good enough to go to a power four.
Yeah.
And I just have always been fascinated by that league and pay attention to it and love it. So I'm
No,
looking
it's super
forward.
fun. And again, it was fun to dive into kind of that world a little bit more because you don't see a lot of those teams during the regular season, if any.
Let's do this again next week, since it'll be right before the season starts.
It's
But
crazy. I can't believe it's like 10 days away.
you have a little downtime between now and then.
Yeah, tonight I'm actually headed to my boyfriend's lake house in upstate New York in the Finger Lakes. So I'll be there from tonight until next Monday. It'll be a balance of lake time as well as a lot of volleyball prep and meetings. So I'm excited. It'll be like honestly nice to get out of the city for a little bit and enjoy the lake.
If you've never been to the Finger Lakes in upstate New York, let me tell you, it's really, really good with a
I
lot
know.
of beautiful scenery. The lakes are wonderful, and a lot of good microbrews along the way too.
I know there's some like right on the lake that they have a house on that we're like just gonna pull the boat up to. So I'm very excited for that.
Good. I never did any of the intro stuff, but please go to 900squarefeet.com and sign up for the Only All Volleyball email if you are not already a subscriber. Follow us on YouTube and social media at 900 Square Feet or some variation thereof. And she is the inimitable, ubiquitous at Emily Ehman, who is on social media. And also, you'll be working early season for both ESPN, the Big Ten Network, and of course, you're doing Fox again,
Yep.
and which includes Fox, FS1. I see where TNT picked up some volleyball. Are you in contact
Yeah.
with TNT?
I'm not doing those games. They are the day before the NCAA season technically starts, so I think I know who's doing them, but I am not. But I'm really excited to watch them because they're two friends that I'm close with.
Good. Do you have how many matches do you have scheduled? Do you know yet?
Got about 45 this year. So similar to last season. I will say it's because of all the really fun and exciting non-conference events and showcases and tournaments and blah blah blah. It's pretty like front loaded, which is nice. So once we hit October, like it really levels out and I'm not doing a ton until the SEC and Big Ten tournaments.
Well, for me, Milwaukee early, the
Yeah.
the Wrigley Field matches. Um, I'm waiting to pick a couple others in the regular season. I'm going to go to the first couple of days of the Big Ten tournament, which is a whole other discussion that we didn't have. Maybe next week.
Yeah.
If you see Emily in an airport, don't slow her down. Just give her a high five or an um, this was fun. It's so good for us to get back together. It's always enjoyable. And thank you everybody for watching. And see you at 900 Square Feet every morning.
See you next week.